We don't pay anybody for what we do, unlike, some of these other national organizations that may take advantage of donors. And, anyways, I won't go there. But we're all volunteer. And so running an all-volunteer organization is a constant talent search. You must actively recruit people. And one of the ways we do this is we have a very active presence at gun shows in the States. And so we find we can actually recruit people, bring them into that first level of starting to volunteer for the organization with using gun shows. And then as their talents and their preferences become more clear, then I shunt them out to the legislative team, to the alert team, so that we can do alerts and communications, because we have a huge email network within the state of North Carolina. We don't require people to be members in order to take our email alerts. We want to activate a core constituency of people beyond our immediate paid membership. And so, yeah, it's a talent search, no doubt about it.
And just keeping it going. There's so many times that I see somebody be like, we've got so much work to do. So when a new person comes on, the first thing they're like, look, there's all this stuff. And I feel like it's like a cartoon where you're standing there and they hand you 1 book and 2 books and 3 books. And pretty soon you're so buried down in books that you can't see your head. And it's like, wait, where's the fun part of this? Where's the camaraderie? Where's the... And so I think that there's a way that you've got to kind of figure out how to bring them in. There is the work, but they have to have a good time while they're doing it. They have to feel good about it. There has to be successes. All of that kind of stuff that goes with it. So...
Which is why we run a leadership network online. And so people can communicate with each other. They can get to know each other. We joke routinely. I tell people that every time they do something well, I said, well, that's 100% pay raise for you. 100% of nothing being nothing, of course. Exactly. Or, better yet, we maintain that every time somebody screws something up, we punish it by promotion, which, of course, explains how I got to be president. So...
There you go. You just keep moving them up. There. You can't do this, so we're going to move you. Well, except that it sounds like it's a joke, but when you really look at politics, I think that's a reality. They're not good at this, so let's find something new for them.
Remember the book from the 1980s, The Peter Principle, that basically said you tend to get promoted to the level of your own incompetence. That was the premise of the book. So
then they don't move you anymore. Yep. They're like, yeah.
It's very true in politics. I have no doubt about that.
It really is.
I would be remiss if I don't mention one more thing, too.
Yeah.
Namely that, especially for your North Carolina listeners, this Tuesday is a big day for North Carolina gun rights politics, because we finally got a committee hearing for constitutional carry, House Bill 189. And
great.
Now we have a veto-proof, a supermajority in both chambers of the General Assembly now. And so it is entirely plausible that North Carolina will become the 28th state and by passing it to pass constitutional carry. So I'm asking people to go sign the petition for it and to respond to the legislators. If they go to our homepage, there's both a petition they can sign that will be delivered to the Speaker on Tuesday, and also there is an alert that tells you, gives you a copy and paste message so that you can contact the legislators on the committee in just a few minutes. We try to make it as easy as possible for people, because we know people have competing interests on their lives. So they can find all this stuff at grnc.org, grnc.org.
Okay, grnc.org. Now the interesting thing is that you draft a letter for them, so all they have to do is put their name on it, put the email on it, or plug it into the thing and go. And people are like, no, I want it to look original. I want it to look unique. I want it to look... And it's like, they're not reading it. They're reading it for overall content, and you become a check mark in the positive or the negative column. It is not that they're reading this to say that it is War and Peace and you wrote this literary tome.
Like a book report, huh?
Yeah. Right.
Get a grade on it.
You're not getting that at all. And you're not going to sway them. They're just going to check.
If somebody wants to personalize it, they can. But here's the thing. What a politician is going to tell you is, I'd rather get one well-written letter than 1,000 emails. Well, actually, he'd rather get no letter at all so he can completely ignore you. But the reason he'd rather get one well-written letter is because 1,000 emails plus organization. And anybody who organizes 1,000 emails can organize 1,000 votes against him. And that is the principle of grassroots mobilization.
It really is, and they look at it to say one letter is worth 100 voters. So when you get a stack of letters or a stack of emails, it says people are paying attention, and they're not just sitting on their sofa eating Doritos and watching a sports game.
Yep. For example, we were one vote shy of a supermajority among Republicans when we passed Senate Bill 41. The House had 71 instead of 72 seats. So we needed to either win over a Democrat or get some of them to stay home. So three of the swing voter Democrats, we hammered their districts, okay, the gun owners in their districts, thousands of gun owners in their districts, with robocalls and peer-to-peer texting. And you know what? All three of those stayed home. They didn't vote. Actually, let me take that back. Two of them didn't vote, and one of them did vote. But and consequently, we were able to get the supermajority, even though we didn't have a supermajority of Republicans, by putting input into those districts.
Just by attrition, because they don't want to be seen by their party as voting the wrong way, but they can be like, "Oh, I had a doctor's excuse. I had a reason why I couldn't be there."
That's exactly what two of them said. And by the way, one of them, Representative Tricia Cotham, got so much negative input from her own party for not voting on that she actually switched parties to the Republicans. And now we have a real supermajority.
I saw that. I absolutely saw that. And it's pretty interesting when you see a politician switch parties because their own party has beat them up so badly that they say that you don't respect me, and I'm trying to reflect my constituents. But yeah, it's an interesting thing when that type of thing happens. So Paul, we've got just 1 minute left. So let's do tell folks where they can get your book, where they can find your book, and just kind of go for it.
Absolutely. Rules for Anti-Radicals. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble, and you can order any of the usual fashion. Or you can go to my website, and I'll send you an autographed copy, and that's rulesforantiradicals.com. Rulesforantiradicals.com.
Okay, so folks, rulesforantiradicals.com. Look it up. Paul Vallone. So Paul, if they wanted to sign up to get your North Carolina email so that they sign up on the newsletter, how do they do that?
For our email alerts, go to grnc.org, and there's a link right there to sign up for alerts. Again, you don't have to be a member. They can also sign up for the blogs that I do on a lot of these issues at rulesforantiradicals.com. So either one of those two websites will get you what you need. And and there are also, I've got some video seminars, projecting power in politics, and some other stuff that people can get there.
Okay, gotta go.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing, to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey folks, welcome to hour 2 of Eye on the Target Radio. And if you are watching any of the video versions of this via Ops Lens on Facebook, on YouTube, any of those ways that you can find us, that our amazing video producer puts us out there for folks to not only hear us, but to see us and hear us, then you'll check out that we have DC Project has a series of videos that are a couple minutes long that are really, really done well. And so as time goes, we'll roll out each and every one of them so you can catch them all. But folks that are fans of DC Project, go to the website dcproject.info and get more information about them, because they are an amazing group of ladies who do some really, really good work. Speaking on that topic, this week, so let's see, since I was with you last week, I had just come home from Indianapolis and then from Florida. So we did last week's show, and then I immediately left for Lansing, Michigan to spend time with Gabby Franco and Marcy Yankovic and some others that were up in Michigan. And we did an event, Rick Ector, who is on the NRA Board of Directors. And so we had a really, really good event up there at Hillsdale College. So if you're, a fan of DC Project, that's great. A fan of Hillsdale College, that's great. And when you put the two together in the same room, it's pretty darn phenomenal, those two together. So it made for a great event, it made for a great party, and it made it worthwhile to drive all that way. Get in the car, more driving.
More driving.
More driving, right? So what do you got going on?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing. Just nothing, right?
Here's
they had primers at the gun show, right?
Yeah, I've seen those primers. It seems like they're some kind of a foreign brand, but they were much cheaper than the domestic ones I have been seeing.
So the prices are starting to move.
It's kind of like wine, I guess. You gotta know what you're buying, but
okay, so if you're buying them, and if they say large rifle or small pistol or whatever,
normally if you got a little machine and you're loading by hand, or you got one of those old Lee priming tools or something, it's not a problem. They don't really care. But if you got a more advanced machine that handles a lot of primers, I know, like some of my Dillon machines, if I'm using a name brand primer, say like a Federal or a CCI or something, I can go 50, 80,000 rounds before I have to take it apart and clean it.
okay.
Where if I use
If you use the Acme brand,
well, I use the Russian. I had some Wolf brand. I had some S&Bs. I had some other stuff. I would get 10 or 12,000 rounds. I would have to take it all apart and clean.
So was it just because it's sloughing? It's got softer
I don't know
metal.
if they just maybe they don't run it through a final tumble to clean it or something, so you get a little more dust that these machines kind of fills in the pores, and then all of a sudden mine gets like a black coating on all the slide parts. You have to go in and scrape it all off with a knife or something to clean it up.
Okay, interesting.
But if you get good primers, you can go for a long time without having any issues.
Well, right now the answer is if you get primers, whether it's good or dirty or clean or
When in a perfect world, if you're using these primers, you can go 100,000 rounds without headaches. The other ones, every couple of cases you're monkeying around to make everything work right.
Okay, but at the same time, if you buy these off-brand import
Russian. It used to be so much cheaper that it was worth the monkey motion that it took to make them work.
Now it's just availability. But
you don't notice when you're shooting them.
That was my question.
You only notice when you're loading them that you have some.
So that's why I don't notice at all, because
Well,
I'm
it's
just a
like if you're
shooter,
a
not a loader.
mechanic and you use good quality tools, or you go to Harbor Freight and buy the El Cheapo stuff, and between the ones that don't actually quite fit on the nuts, or the ends break off, or something else goes wrong with it.
See, I'm a
You
fan
get the
of
job done, but it just takes you a little longer to.
I'm a fan of good quality tools if I'm going to do it more than once. If I'm doing it more than once, I can suffer with the bargain basement Acme brand of right, the black and white generic.
Well, if you're loading,
Yeah.
if you're a guy who loads 50 rounds every weekend or something and goes out and shoots them up, you won't hardly notice that there's a difference between brand A primers and brand Z primers or something. But if you've got a machine that's doing most of the work, the machine will notice, and now all of a sudden you start making duds. And
Well, I was just on a on one of the chats in the chat room, and they were talking about the competition shooters that reload their own stuff for competition, and they had bought projectiles, and the projectiles, half of their projectiles were within 1/1000th in length, and then the other half were up to 16 thousandths longer. So what does that do to when you're loading?
Because most of the machine handling stuff works from the end, the only thing it could cause you, I mean, if you were loading right up to the maximum edge, now you've shoved the bullet in, say, 16 thousandths deeper than you were. So you've taken up that airspace or room for powder, which could cause you some spike pressure issues.
So you're over pressurizing or something like that.
In the normal circumstances, you won't really notice. And also, I mean, I've seen bullets that are within 3 or 4 grains of the target size. You won't notice those either.
Now they said that. So somebody, once again, I've got a keyboard, so I must be an expert, right? They said the capital they said that it would give them additional lift while they're shooting, so that bullet, as it's longer, maybe they're extrapolating because as it's longer, it's got to be heavier. So it would, when they're shooting it, it would.
I wouldn't. I mean, you're not going to notice that the bullet left the barrel 16,000 faster or slower than the last one did. The bullet weight, really, I don't think it's going to be that either. I think that I think
It's the nut behind the wheel. It's not the. Got it. So it's not my bullets are defective. It's that my aim is all over the target.
When you're looking at, I mean, people, they always tell you to like slug your bore, especially the lead bullets. They tell you to slug your bore and size your bullets within 1/1000th of the bore.
Okay, slug your bore is a comment or a statement that a lot of our listeners don't understand. So
they tell you to take a soft lead ball or something that's a little bit bigger than what your bore diameter should be, and then force it down the barrel. And then you measure that, and so say it's a 45 automatic. It should have a 451 or 452 with a maximum bore diameter. But during wartime, sometimes they let them go up to 455, 457, just because they needed barrels. They didn't really care. You weren't going to be shooting very far with the thing anyhow. If you're making bullets and you can use a 455 bullet in that barrel, is going to be more accurate than if you're shooting 451 bullets in it. But sometimes the chamber is tight enough that if you put a 455 bullet in the brass and then expand it up, everything, it won't fit in the chamber anyhow. So it mechanically won't function. But when a lot of the revolver guys, because they have 6 chambers in the revolver, they I've seen where they take the barrel off and then they fire the rounds out of the chamber, and then they measure in what the front part of the cylinder is. So say it goes to 454 on all of them, and then it squeezes back down to 452 in what they call a forcing cone, which is just a funnel on the end of the barrel to line you back up.
Yep.
So that the the kick that it gets from the original taking off part makes it expand to the diameter of that chamber that is allowed to be into. So it can only go that big because that's it. Then when it gets to the funnel, and
then it's
the
like,
forcing
okay,
cone,
everybody suck in.
right, then it squeezes it back down and slides it down the barrel. And some people say, oh, that makes a huge difference, and others say it doesn't make a difference, that the forcing cone has the final say, and that's what you're dealing with. So,
well, it does have the final say. There is a spot where it says that, nobody's getting past here that's any bigger than this.
I have a Taurus 218B, and one chamber does not shoot where the other 5 do.
Okay.
So I just marked it with a red pencil so I don't use that one.
So you just don't use that one. Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seffacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so we are back, and let's see. Let's talk about. There's a story in the news, and it is
depending on when you hear the story, things change.
right.
They delete all the pertinent information
Well,
that doesn't go along with their
with
story.
their. I don't disagree. So this is about the dude in Texas that shot up his neighbors, went into their house, and point blank shot and killed them because they had asked him to stop drinking and shooting at 11 p.m. at night because the kids were sleeping.
They just asked him to stop shooting. They didn't
Say anything about drinking. Well, he had been drinking and shooting, but they had asked him to stop that behavior of shooting at 11 o'clock at night when the kids were sleeping. And so the interesting thing is when the story first came out, keep in mind, folks, that murder is murder is murder, and there is no justification for this at all by any means. But as you read the articles, I'm losing my mind as they start to put together some of this stuff. So it is in a community where first they came and said that he was a Mexican national, not a U.S. citizen. Okay. Now that is scrubbed completely out of every news source at all. They're still doing, they haven't found him. They are looking for him. They're trying to describe him. They're not allowed to describe him by any of his features, and they're not allowed to describe him by his nationality or any of that stuff.
They think that he has left the country now.
So they had said that they thought he left the county. Then they said that they had him blocked into a 2-acre block where the police were going to slowly squeeze him in. And now that story's gone away. So obviously they all came to the middle, and he wasn't in the box, whatever that is. They have rewritten the story, and now they've added the lines that Republican leaders have continually rejected calls for more gun control in Texas, and they are the root cause for this man drinking and shooting his neighbors, and and one of the words was almost execution style.
Right, early on in the headline it says that it was execution style, and then later it says almost execution style.
I'm not sure that execution. I don't know exactly what that means, though. In some of the
later on it says that he shot them all
He shot everybody above the neck. Well, then above the neck only leaves one descriptive object, but they don't want to say that he shot everybody in the head or shot them in the face, right? They want to say above the neck. It's horrific. I'm offended, but as they spin this, it just gets more and more.
What's that? All the news that's fit to print or whatever is.
Yeah. So the guy is not. The interesting thing is that also, as you went through some of this, it was the fact that
it's the fact that there was five victims, and the one was 8 years old, and so they made it sound like the 8-year-old was the primary victim, and the other ones were just happened to be there. And but why would the little kid have more press than the other 4 victims?
Because they were adults. The interesting part, a piece of this that is interesting. I mean, because you read these stories and you want to tear them apart. You want to understand. You want to strive to understand. Try to get a nugget of what is exactly happening here in Cleveland, Texas. And so they said that it is. They had been before saying that it was an assault style rifle. Then they're using the term an AR-15 style rifle. So does that mean it's an AR-15, or does that mean it's just black?
Well, the other part is because they knew that he was a Mexican national who was not a U.S. citizen. It says that they had been called to that property
multiple times previously. So if they'd been called to this property multiple times previously for drunken disorderly, for shooting, and then a noise
the guy's
ordinance,
not allowed to own the gun because he's not a
U.S. citizen, he's probably not allowed to, unless he's papered, he's not allowed to be there. So there would be multiple reasons why this needs to be addressed. The other thing that's interesting is in this community that the house that he broke into, the house that he went into, there were more than 10 people living in the house, all from another country, and it looks as if they too are not U.S. citizens. So do we have a whole nother issue going on here in addition to the horrendous murder?
Well, they've been saying we have a whole nother issue going on here, but the White House doesn't seem to care about it. Have you seen how many Chinese they're catching at the borders lately? Why would the Chinese need to sneak in through the Mexican border? Is that a normal situation? Or?
I wouldn't think so, but I don't know. I have to say that I have seen in passing, but we were too busy today. I've seen in passing that here in Ohio we have a fentanyl issue. We have a drug issue, and it's really affecting our communities. And in a house that's just down the way, everybody who's lived in that house has over time OD'd and died. So I saw today that our sheriff was invited to and took them up on it, unlike our vice president, took them up on actually visiting the border and going to see the border walls and the border security and the lack thereof and getting an understanding of it. But at the same time, our border czar, where we have a problem with guns being brought in, with drugs being brought in, she's not been there. So, there is this thing that if it doesn't meet the definition, they will rewrite it to where it spins and says that it meets the definition the way that they want it to be. I don't know. But I'm just going to say just keep watching this, and hopefully they're going to find this murderer. They're going to find him, and I'm not bloodthirsty, but my only hope is that he has self-terminated, and that's why they can't find him in some darn ditch right now. But there we go, right there. We'll be back right after this commercial break.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional. A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Well, we're back. And so, what story do you have?
I have out of Massachusetts.
Okay.
They have they'll go to any length to keep guns out of the area. Considering, I mean, if you look at the founding fathers, a lot of them came from Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
They have in the past had issues with the English and witches and all kinds of different things that they've dealt with.
So now they're doing the Salem witch trials in a whole different way, and now the gun owners are the witches?
They've passed some zoning laws that allow, if you're allowed to do marijuana type things in your county, you're not allowed to do firearms or related things, so you can't sell them, make them, or reload ammo, do anything like this. So now they've blocked off huge paths of things because of the way the zoning laws are written. So it's just it's so hard to read, though. It's crazy in there.
Well, the interesting thing is that this is we know, I pulled this story to kind of hold on to it because they are trying to do these town meetings, or what do they call them? Darn it. Yeah, so these town meetings where they're sharing information. And so friends of the show, Charlie Cook and Carrie Ann O'Clair, have attended some of these where you get an opportunity to be part of and take place and participate in them. And so I wanted to hold this and do a story talking to them, interviewing them, and see how that goes.
It makes more sense than when you try to read that.
Right. So there's a spot where I really do want to interview them and talk about this, because I think that the interesting part about
let's go to Bruin. Let's just skip over that and go to.
Okay, so you don't want to hear my logic. You don't care. Are you saying you just don't care?
I think that Bruin's going to stomp that out just like a forest fire anyway. So we'll just
tap dancing on it. Got it.
But anyhow, you have one that says insurance isn't the way forward. Ohio has been watching what's going on in California, where they're forcing people to buy liability insurance. Since they're working on passing a law now so that you don't have to buy liability insurance, because if you take the gun and do something that would be against the law, the insurance isn't going to pay for it anyways. And if you take the gun and do like a suicide or something, insurance isn't going to pay for that either. So you're paying for something for no reason.
For no reason, because it's like, what do you? Yeah, the insurance isn't going to cover.
All it really is
it's a feel-good measure.
No, it's a registration scheme, because the insurance company will not register anything that does not have a numbers to identify it. So
imagine that.
Right.
So
that's
and
why
they don't
car,
have a responsibility for keeping that information confidential in the same way that your FFL does, and that. So all of a sudden now it could end up, because right now if you got a VIN number on a car, you can know everything about that car,
right? You can just,
including who owns it.
Right. So that's the thing is they always say about, oh well, you have to register your car. It's because you have to insure your car, and they want to know who and where it's at, and
because
stuff like
the insurance company is not just going to be like, oh sure, fine, tell me you got a yellow one, and then any yellow one that you bring me, I'll fix. That's not how that works.
So anyhow, this is we're winning. As much as sometimes you watch the news and it's all about new gun control acts, this, that, the other thing, we're still winning. Washington just passed a huge assault weapons ban.
Oh, yeah.
The liberals are dancing in the street and showing you their frilly underwear and everything because they're so excited. But Bruin has already said, don't expect much out of this, and we're going to see where it goes to.
Well, and they're really pushing back.
This one is so new. There's really nothing going on, but we're seeing out of Illinois, where theirs is a couple of months old now.
Well,
the courts have had opportunity to do something.
Okay, so New Jersey says that here in the Democratic People's Republic of New Jersey, we will be required to have insurance to carry as of July 1, even though they can't buy insurance to carry. And it's really funny because I'm gonna switch and go back. So in the insurance topic, there are insurance companies for concealed carry where you want that protection that some states won't allow you to have it because they title it murder insurance.
Right.
And so you can't have insurance against murder. And so now some states are requiring and some states won't allow you to have it. It's a hot
it's all about they want the serial numbers and to know where the guns are at and who has them. So when they decide to come and get them, they have an address.
Great. So yeah, instead, I mean, if they want to insure me as somebody who may have a gun, that is where some of these.
Well, do your homework, because the original part where the Patriots were on the Old North Bridge.
There's only 10% of the Patriots who fought, kids.
And it's the other ironic part of it is that the first person killed in the Revolution was a free black man. So that doesn't hit those history books either.
No.
But anyhow, the British were coming to confiscate the gunpowder and the cannons and stuff that were in the local armory. That's why.
And it's like, oh, you want a cannon? Here, let me give you one. Oh wait, you want the whole thing, including the wheels and the barrel, not just.
No, that's the thing is that at the time, private citizens could own the cannon, but I can tell you from personal experience, the wife doesn't want it in the kitchen. So
it's on wheels. You can move it to another spot. I have to say that since I don't have wheels on mine yet, my husband is like, what is that? Is that what I think that is? And I'm like, yeah, it's a wheelless cannon. It's waiting. It's just think of it. It's
but that's
pieces.
the thing is, so they let you keep the thing at the local armory. And it's almost in the modern age, we don't even know we had armories. But when I was a kid, we would go to the local armory for gun shows and for different things.
Now our armory's
most of them
gym.
have been turned into exercise centers and stuff.
Exactly.
So while you're in there huffing away on your exercise bike, remember somebody else was shooting their old stinky gun with lead in the air.
With stinky smoke, and now you're breathing it. But there's that. So okay, so let's go back to what's happening with Bruin. So Washington has this assault weapons ban that they are like, ta-da! And the thing is that Illinois had passed a ban, and they had gotten lawsuits were filed. It's worked its way through the court, and so it is now pushed back, and so they're not winning, right? So we're winning. Bruin's winning. They're not winning. So Washington, as soon as Washington had signed the ban, because here's the deal, folks, is that the folks who are fighting for your rights, the folks who have lawyers at the ready, the folks who are watching this with bated breath and want to take action can take no action until it is a law. When they're just threatening or talking about it or rolling it around, there's nothing that they can do besides tell their elected officials, you do this, I'm suing you. But until then, there's nothing that they can do. So as soon as this went into effect, as soon as it was passed,
once the law actually brings
became a
to
law,
bear some form of penalty on you,
then you've got somebody with standing who could file a lawsuit and stop it. And that's really where this is. So I know that there was multiple organizations who immediately got involved and filed in Washington. And then right after they do that, then they're hugely successful in Illinois. And some of our gun geek friends who are so geeky are like, are you watching this? We're live streaming it. We're watching it. We're watching it from 3 states over because this is fabulous. And so it really is an interesting place that we're living in right now, because to listen to the mainstream media, you would think that the anti-gunners are winning, and that we're getting rights stripped away left and right. And I mean, I've got it from a good source that within minutes of the governor signing Washington's assault weapons ban, Second Amendment Foundation, amongst others, filed a lawsuit. They were there. It was written.
They have like 90 days ahead of time. They know the bill's coming.
They know
fill it all out.
They're like, here it is. You do this, I'll do this. So it's kind of interesting. So one of our listeners is going, insurance by Lloyd's of London. And I know that there is some stuff where Lloyd's of London is backing out of trying to play in the gun arena, because at one point they were providing key man insurance for the NRA and stopped. So there's a lot of jockeying for gun rights not only is it in the courts, it's in the banks, it's in the insurance companies, so there's all the everyday things.
Some of it is they see that it's basically they're being used as a tool for a registration scheme, and so why put their effort and manpower into this when it's going to go nowhere?
When it's going to go out, we're stopping right there we're getting ready for a commercial break. So do not introduce a new topic, because I feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose already. You're like, here's one, and then here's one, and here's another one. Because folks, let me tell you, this news, this pro Second Amendment news, is coming hot and heavy, and it's mostly good news. It really is mostly good news. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so did you see where the 6-year-old who shot the Virginia teacher? Remember that story where the 6-year-old took a gun to school and he shot the teacher? So what didn't come out then that is slowly coming out now is that multiple people had warned, and we talked about this a little bit in a couple weeks ago.
They told a teacher, but they didn't say which teacher.
A teacher. And so it's like, which teacher did they tell what? So now they're saying that the administrators or multiple teachers were told 3 times on the day that that boy brought a gun to school that he had a gun at school. Then it comes out that they had searched his backpack, but he had moved the gun to his pocket. The teacher who was shot said that she saw him move something and for them to check it, and they said, oh, it's not big enough to hold a gun. So they were discussing a gun. They were discussing him. They were discussing searching his stuff. They didn't have him empty his pockets. And so he had moved it to his pocket and then moved it back. So there is all of that. So here's a teacher that they know that they've got an issue, and the school sent the kid back to his class.
Well, and he said other occasions that he wanted to, I don't know what all, he said he was going to do something, stab them with scissors or...
So he's tried to stab them with scissors. He's attacked them multiple times. And so there are other issues. So now the teacher is saying, well, look, you did not protect me. You did not allow me to protect myself. You did not allow me to kick this kid out of my class. You did not allow someone to search him and his pockets or empty his pockets.
Or send him home.
Or send him home. You didn't allow any of that. So you forced me to be in a room with this kid who shot me. So I'm suing you for $40 million. And they're like, how about you were shot at work? So how about we'll just give you workers' comp?
They should put me on the thing. I'll give her the $40 million.
I'm like, there is a spot where there is. Isn't this where we're saying see something, say something, get involved, and take action?
If you say something, they're like, never mind. You're just blowing this out of proportion. Blah blah blah.
Right. One of our listeners says, "Where does a 6-year-old conceal carry?" Obviously, it was in his pocket, is what they're saying now. So I don't know how.
He's got a pocket like Mary Poppins.
I'm just gonna say he's got boy pockets, not girl pockets, because girl pockets, they only make our pockets 1.5 inches deep.
Right.
So
I just thought it was like Mary Poppins'
bag,
purse where you could reach in there and
pull out an anvil if you wanted. Or was that Pippi Longstocking that you could get the anvil?
But yeah, it's same thing. You get a lamp or whatever out of that bird cage, whatever you need.
It's just. Again, this is bizarro world where you're sitting there looking at it. Yeah. So the school district is arguing that had the child been successful in stabbing her in the neck with the sharp scissors that he attempted earlier, that would have obviously been workers' comp. So this too should fall under workers' comp. What? What? Right. So she's like, yeah, no, me and my lawyers have discussed this, and we don't think that that's a good offer.
Right.
So, rejected. I'm rejecting it. I'm just saying. I mean, this is, when you have a problem child like that, it shouldn't be.
I don't even know if they've decided where he got the gun from, because originally the parents were saying they didn't have a gun at home. They thought maybe he got it from an uncle or something. But...
Well, and then it comes out that the uncle lived with them. So he still got it from the home. It just wasn't the parents' portion of the home. It was, Uncle Irresponsible Bobby. Whatever that is. Everybody knows Uncle Bobby's irresponsible.
Yeah, Uncle Bobby was sleeping when school starts, and the kid going through his pocket.
I don't know. Pants on, gun on, and we always say that.
Can't sleep with your pants on every day.
Well, obviously you could, or you lock it up, especially if you've got, little rat fink as the kid in the family, because if he has stabbed the teacher in the neck with the scissors, then chances are that he wasn't real nice to Uncle Bobby either. So I'm just thinking, this is the definition of hellion, and so, there's pieces. So did you see the interviews where the Louisville shooter, the parents came on and they're like, look, we feel, they actually asked for a GoFundMe for the police officer that their son had shot. They asked for it to be funded and for people to make donations there. And they were talking about how they failed as parents. It's their son's responsibility, their son's fault.
The thing is, you see this all the time with nobody pays attention, or nobody wants to be the bad guy, so they always say, oh, well, he was a good boy, or he never did anything like this.
These parents didn't say that. So here's what these parents said, is this kid was in trouble. We know he was in trouble. We were monitoring him. He was going to counselors. We were having breakfast with him.
How come that none of that showed up on a background check?
We were having breakfast with him. We were having lunch with him. We were texting him. We were calling him. We were taking action because we knew that he had trouble. But no one, the counselor nor the parents, did anybody Baker Act or report him. So and there are vehicles for that. So there's that. And then they're like, oh, okay. So there is a big struggle in saying, okay, if he's going to a mental health professional, when do they say he's a threat to himself and others? And when do they say he's not? and what this is. And at some point, it looks as if he actually told somebody he was going to do this. And so the mother was trying to race there. But did anybody call the police? Or did they just try to head it off themselves? I don't know. But then the parents are like, he shouldn't have had a gun. Bingo, he shouldn't have had a gun. He shouldn't have had a gun. But that doesn't mean that everyone else shouldn't have a gun.
Right. That's the trouble, though, is they just want a blanket statement. Everybody shouldn't have a gun.
Well, yeah. I mean, there is a spot where...
nobody wants to be, like I said, they don't want to be the bad guy and say, oh, well, you can't have this or you shouldn't have that or call the police on him or do anything. And we've seen here locally where finally the mental health guy has a little bit of an issue. He decides to attack the family with a machete. They call the police expecting who knows what, but when the police come and he attacked them with the machete,
then they addressed it.
They shot him, and the family wasn't ready for that.
The family wanted to sue the police for shooting him, but when you attack the police with a machete, in this. So there is a spot, there really is a spot where when your mental health professionals say that you are a threat to yourself and others, they need to have him adjudicated as the term is, adjudicated as a mental defective. And then when they fix him, they can come back and fix it. But if they are not willing to take that step, if they're not willing to draw that line, then there is a problem. But instead, we want to red flag everybody. We want to be able to make it so you can weaponize it. So when there is a spot where somebody should be held accountable, held responsible, and have restricted access, the vehicle is there, but they're not going to use that vehicle. They're not going to drive that vehicle. They're not going to enforce that vehicle. And then later they're going to be like, well, I didn't think it would go that far. Well, when he tried to commit suicide while he's taking mind-altering drugs, so when you have to drug him because he's a threat to himself and others, chances are you may want to take some steps. That would be the clue. What?
Well, there's that, but a lot of that stuff, if you just watch television, it tells you that you may decide to commit suicide or whatever. So a lot of these drugs that they're putting out there aren't helping you either.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, when you listen to them talk really, really fast about all the drugs, we'll be back.